We welcome now political analyst Rich Rubino, friend of the program. Rich, thank you so much for joining us tonight. So wanted to head back to this partial shutdown. As Hannah reported there, no fast tracking of this package means this debate now goes to the House. Very narrow Republican majority there, and many skeptical this will find a quick resolution. So what are your thoughts on a timeline to start?
Well, Speaker Johnson seems to think that he can get this through on Tuesday. He seems to think that he has the votes. The Republicans have an extremely narrow majority right now, meaning that they need basically every Republican except for one to vote with them. Thomas Massie, the kind of libertarian Republican from Kentucky, often votes against the Republicans, so they kind of have to take him off the table, and they can maybe lose one other Republican. But I think that he believes that he has this passed, and it's pretty much going to be a party line vote on Tuesday, I think.
Yeah, you know, Democrats, they want to end roving immigration patrols. Yep. They want clear use of force standards. They want to ban mask wearing and require body cameras. Also, these judicial warrants, they seem to be emerging as the biggest sticking point in these conversations. Do you see a path for both sides to reach some common ground on that issue and the others as well?
Based on what Mike Johnson said this morning, I think that they will reach some sort of agreement. He said basically that this is reasonable. He said that there are certain things in there that are reasonable, and I think it's interesting because usually Michael Johnson has a very partisan tone, as for that matter does Hakeem Jeffries on the Democratic side. But he struck a bipartisan note. I think he realizes that the American people generally have an unfavorable view, at least of both parties, but at least they do tend to, when it comes to the ICE issue, they do seem to think that there should be some regulations on there. I think he wants to get this off the table as fast as he possibly can, and I think that he believes that he potentially could lose politically in a government shutdown, at least if it goes on a little bit further. And he knows historically that the party in power in a 6th year of a presidency generally loses seats in the midterm elections, and he cannot afford to really lose a single seat.
Right. And I do want to get your take on the political aspects of all of this, because you're right. Historically, the majority party shoulders the blame of a shutdown. So how will any extension of this shutdown be perceived by the public? It seems Democrats have a slight edge heading into this. Does that change if this shutdown is extended?
We don't know. We don't know if there's going to be impatience among the body politic. We really don't know that. But generally speaking, Democrats have done good in terms of, from a purely cold, calculated political perspective, in terms of government shutdown. Bill Clinton, 1994 midterm elections, the party lost the House of Representatives for the first time in 40 years, lost the United States Senate. It appeared that he was potentially going to lose the 1996 presidential election. And the polls were showing that the front runner at the time for the Republicans, Bob Dole, who did become the nominee ahead of Bill Clinton. Then there was a government shutdown, and Bill Clinton made it about Medicare funding. He made it about the environment. He made it about education, and he really had a comeback. And Bob Dole and Newt Gingrich on the Republican side, I think, lost that politically. There was another government shutdown later in 1994, 1996, and in both cases, I think the Republicans lost that politically, and I think Donald Trump himself has lost politically on government shutdowns. It's something that, generally speaking, again, this is a cold, calculated political perspective, right, does not bode well for the Republican Party.
Right. Well, and framing is everything. Public perception,
absolutely,
you know, it's shifting on this issue, as you know, Rich. You now have the president's handling of immigration is standing at these numbers, 57% of independents disapproving versus 30% approving now. So what tone does the Republican side need to strike to better position themselves ahead of these elections? We have about 40 seconds left.
This was the flagship economic issue, was immigration, for that matter, tariffs. I think it's very important that Donald Trump, I think a lot of people believe that he's perhaps overplayed his hand. Some, like former Speaker Newt Gingrich, the aforementioned former Speaker Newt Gingrich, has suggested there should be a conversation about those who came in illegally but have been here for 20, 30 years, have been good citizens. I think that generally speaking, from a macro level, people want immigration restrictions, but when they look at people in their neighborhoods who potentially could be sent back, at the micro level, I think there's very contravailing sentiments amongst the American people here.
Right. And where is that sweet spot? We'll see if these two sides can figure it out. Rich Rubino, Rich, always a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for having me on.
Well, with more